Welcome to the Paul Adefarasin podcast, our interactive 15-minute review of this week's message. We revisit the word, surface the big ideas, and give you space to reflect, pray, and act. If you'd like the full message, though, you can watch it on YouTube or listen on Spotify after this episode. My name is Paul Adefarasin.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're plunging into a set of source material that is as broad as it is intense.
That's quite a stack.
It really is. We've got deep religious philosophy, clinical psychology, and some very specific, very urgent geopolitical reports on the conflict in Nigeria.
It seems like a lot to connect, but there's a thread.
There is. And our mission today is to pull that thread, to extract the one core principle that allows you, the listener, to navigate a world that feels like it's defined by external stress and chaos.
And that core principle is all about alignment. The sources make a powerful argument that you can only manage the external world when your internal world is, in order.
Okay.
This whole dive really centers on one concept, Imago Dei.
The image of God.
The image of God. Or more practically, seeing yourself the way God sees you. The mandate from all this material is absolute. Vision precedes provision. Clarity about who you are has to come before anything else.
I like that focus. Vision precedes provision. It cuts right through the noise, and it brings us to this really profound truth in the sources. Nothing around you straightens out until something within you stands upright. I mean, that's an almost architectural statement.
It is, isn't it? If we're mentally bent, the world looks crooked. Simple as that. God is inviting you to see your identity through his lens, the original design, not through the distortions of, pain or bad experiences.
And when that alignment happens, that's when purpose emerges.
Exactly. And the sources define purpose in such a powerful way. They say it's something nobody can take it without your permission.
That idea that you have to grant permission for your purpose to be taken from you, that's huge. So why is it so common? Why do people grant that permission?
Well, the sources argue it's often rooted in deep, unaddressed trauma. And this brings us right to the clinical side of the material.
Post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD.
Yes, but not just as a military affliction. They talk about it as a major, pervasive societal issue. They specifically reference Nigeria, saying it's prevalent across all socioeconomic sectors.
That really changes the context. If it's that widespread, what does it look like for the average person?
It's described as a fundamental dysfunction, a problem in how you process thoughts and feelings. PTSD, in this view, is basically filtering today's reality through the lens of yesterday's injury.
So it directly impacts that Imago Dei we talked about.
It's like a smear on the glass.
Yeah.
You stop seeing who you are and you only see what you suffered. The spiritual goal here is to achieve a kind of alchemy with that.
An alchemy.
Turning pain into power, plight into potential, misery into ministry, and trial into triumph.
That's a huge shift in self-perception. The sources use a biblical story to illustrate this, don't they? The woman in Luke 13.
They do. The woman who was crippled by a spirit for 18 years. Doubled over. She couldn't stand up straight.
It's such a powerful metaphor for vision loss.
It is. She was physically unable to look up. She couldn't see the horizon, her purpose, anything but the dirt at her feet. And when Jesus heals her, it's not just about pain relief. He restores her posture, her vision.
And that story leads to this really arresting question in the material.
Is it possible that you already are something and have something that you don't know you are and have?
Wow. I mean, that's the definition of being enslaved to your identity, right?
Right.
Having all the resources, but lacking the posture to claim them.
Exactly. And the analysis connects this vision loss directly to emotional injury, to betrayal. The sources even suggest that sometimes an evil spirit, or let's say a deep trauma, doesn't just cause the problem.
It supervises it.
It supervises the duration of the problem. It becomes a guard, making sure that vision stays blurred. So God's restoration has to start by healing that emotional injury first. That's what clears the lens.
So if emotional injury is the root, then emotional maturity must be the defense.
It has to be. It's essential for spiritual maturity.
Yeah.
Because if it's not, your feelings will just dictate your fate.
Yeah.
They'll guide you straight to destruction or, just mediocrity.
And maturity here isn't about suppressing feelings.
Not at all. It's about having the thinker, your reason, your creativity in control of the feeler.
Which brings us to the architecture of the soul, the battleground.
Yes. The soul has three parts. The thinker, with reason and memory. The feeler, your emotions, and then the decider or the chooser, your volition.
And that's where the battle is won or lost, in the choice.
That's it. That's where destiny is written. The sources put a huge emphasis on this. Your decisions define your destiny.
Good decisions trigger good seasons.
They trigger good seasons, they start good cycles. You can think of a long, bad season as just a period of, well, bad decisions, emotionally driven decisions. The only way out is disciplined choice.
They use a great analogy for this, a basketball player, like Steph Curry, someone who is just in the zone.
Right, he's not just getting lucky, he's in a flow, a system.
He's stacking up good decisions, shot after shot.
That's the key. Moving past the random good choice and into a state where your choices compound. That's a flow state. The goal is to get you out of that long, bad season and into a series of consistent, great decisions that build on each other.
Okay, so once you've won that internal war, established that flow, you have to apply it to the external world. And according to the sources, that world is chaotic.
Extremely. Which is why the internal alignment has to come first. You need it to confront what's happening, especially in the geopolitical situation that the material outlines for Nigeria.
And we have to be clear, we're impartially reporting what the sources claim here.
Absolutely.
The way they frame the conflict is striking. They call it a fight between Western civilization and Oriental civilization.
It gives it this massive ideological weight, doesn't it? It's not just a local skirmish. And within that conflict, they point to specific tactics being used. One that stands out is takia.
Takia, for anyone who isn't familiar, what is that exactly?
It's essentially concealment, hiding your true beliefs. Dissimulation is a strategic act.
And how is it being used?
The sources report that this tactic is being used by what look like moderate elements, people in significant positions in culture, in markets, in the public sector. The claim is they are concealing their true aggressive motives while occupying influential positions.
That's terrifying. It transforms the conflict from something you can see into something that's infiltrated.
It does. And then you add the claim about who is funding and fighting this war.
Which is highly controversial.
Very. The sources argue this is not a purely indigenous civil war. They detail it as being financed and funded globally by people who the West is friends with.
And the fighters on the ground.
They're described as non-indigenous Nigerians, basically guns for hire.
Yeah.
And their operational model is described as, well, remarkably entrepreneurial.
Entrepreneurial.
Yes. They engage in systematic kidnapping for ransom. They act as thugs for resource extraction, precious metals, gemstones. The sources even claim that cattle have been used to transport gold for over 25 years.
Wow. So it's less about ideology at that level and more about a sustained, organized economic enterprise.
That's what's being reported. And the stated strategic goal is very sobering.
Which is?
The prosecution of a battle to exterminate indigenous people from their ancestral land in the Middle Belt and Northeast. And this is followed by a projection, citing Gani Adams, who's the field marshal of the Yoruba armies,
Okay.
who states there are plans to come to 5 Yoruba states next.
So given that scale of a threat, what do the sources recommend?
They stress the absolute necessity of a unified national strategy, that war is inevitable unless Nigerian intelligence, and by that they mean the strategic minds from all ethnicities, can unify and deal with this. You need a plan A.
And a plan B.
And a plan B, which seems to already be happening. The sources note many families are moving abroad, to Canada, for instance.
For financial reasons.
Primarily, yes.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the critical part. They want to return. They believe that El Dorado is here. They're just waiting for the internal and external strategy to make that possible.
So we've got the internal mandate, Imago Dei, and the severe external reality. The sources bridge this with a story, right? A man named Kenny Jones.
Yes. Kenny Jones, the Kingmaker. His story is all about applying this vision. He was a tailor, but he learned a key lesson about mindset.
Which was?
If you think like a tailor, you will raise your children the way a tailor thinks.
What does that mean, though, to think like a tailor?
It means your vision is limited to the next cut, the next client, a terminal mindset. Jones shifted from being a service provider to being a strategic investor. He started maximizing every single opportunity.
Turning 1 millimeter into 100 miles.
That's the quote. He used his business as a platform. He transformed his status by consistently making better choices about who he served and how he valued his time.
So his success was the physical proof of that decision cycle working. He went from taking taxis to deliver clothes to driving a Mercedes-Benz, a Lexus.
He expanded his mind, and then his resources followed. And that leads directly into the philosophy of building for posterity.
From a terminal person into a lineage.
Exactly. Building for the next generation. This dictates everything, even financial decisions like buying a house.
Right. The advice on housing is very tactical.
It is. It says don't rush to build a house just to say you own one. Instead, buy a house from someone who has already reached the goal you're aiming for. You're leveraging their successful investment.
And then when you are ready to build, the distinction between consumption and investment is key.
It's critical. Adding a swimming pool, for instance, isn't just for fun. It has to be seen as an investment that increases the asset's value. Every decision serves the lineage, not just you.
This all comes back to decisions. It brings us right back to the spiritual foundation, to Psalm 37.
The steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord, and he delights in his path. But the interpretation in the source material is the real insight.
God doesn't physically move our feet.
He influences our decisions. Our decisions are the steps, and the path is a series of decisions. The whole point of Imago Dei is to align your will with his design so he can order your choices and guide you to a positive destiny.
This has been an incredibly integrated deep dive. We've married the inner work of identity and trauma with the external reality of geopolitics and economics. But the message is singular.
It is. The battle for personal vision is the essential preparation for any effective strategy.
And as we close out, the sources offer one last, really profound insight. It's about memory and destiny. They say God exercises sovereign, strategic, selective amnesia.
It's a heavy term.
It is.
What
What does
does
that mean for the listener?
It means God deliberately chooses to forget your past wrongs, your sins, so that you can be maximally useful to his kingdom. It's a strategic move to ensure your past doesn't sabotage his plan for your future.
And that raises a final provocative thought for you, the listener, especially when you remember how we defined PTSD, where memory enslaves the future. If God strategically chooses to forget your past wrongs and serial mistakes so you can fulfill your destiny, what damaging memories, what self-defeating stories, what betrayals must you choose to forget in order to reclaim your true vision and begin building your own imperial season?
The power to choose which memories define you, that's the ultimate decision. That's what sets your path forward. It enables your lineage.
Use the power of that decision wisely. That's all for this deep dive. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening. To go deeper, watch the full message on YouTube or listen to the full-length sermon on Spotify. Follow the podcast, and please share it with someone who needs it and leave your response in the Q&A. Kindly keep your heart on fire, your eyes on Jesus, knowing you are the exception. Grace and peace. We love you deeply.